Hey, what's going on, everybody? Got another live stream for you guys. I want to recap some of the stuff that happened at practice tonight. Tonight was the eighth practice of the preseason. They're gonna go with the scrimmage on Sunday night. That'll be the first one. Apologize for that, but anyways, yeah, everything's working out well here. So the Friday night they had a practice. Saturday they go with the practice. We do Zoom calls afterwards. I want to get to all that stuff. You can check out the site InsideTheU.com for all your coverage of the Hurricanes. We have plenty of articles, videos, interviews, highlights, things like that. So let's get right into it. One of the things that stood out to me tonight, and I'll get to some of the questions that I asked, the questions to defensive coordinator Blake Baker, as long as Rhett Lashley, offensive coordinator. But I want to talk about D'Eriq King. Question was presented that stood out to me that I thought was interesting was in terms of there's been a lot of talk right now with the questions and things like that about D'Eriq King's ability, particularly his running ability. And I think sometimes maybe it's getting a little misconstrued that just because he can run the ball doesn't mean he can't throw the ball. In fact, I would say he throws the ball better. You know, I like his ability to run the ball. Don't get me wrong. I think he can make plays, but I think he's a quarterback. I don't think there's any question about it. And I think that sometimes that gets a little overlooked in the sense that he's played other positions. He played wide receiver. You guys know how he returned that kickoff for a touchdown. So I think people are interpreting his athletic ability for he can only run and do some of these other things, but I don't think that's the case at all. Watching his film, seeing him in practice, talking to people, I think he's definitely a quarterback. And Rhett Lashley was asked that question by my colleague David Lake, also at InsideTheU, and he asked him about, you know, his throwing ability. And I don't think there's any question. The way Rhett responded to the question was definitely is a quarterback. He definitely can throw the ball. He definitely has the ability to throw the ball with accuracy and things like that. And I thought that was very important to get across to everyone. It's been my point of view since I started talking about him. But it came up tonight, and I thought that was interesting. So I just wanted to share that. Hopefully that's the messaging that's getting out there with him. And certainly he's got work to do in terms of being an absolute complete receiver or complete quarterback. And I think everybody has room to grow. And there'll be some things that he certainly still needs to prove at this level and things like that. But my opinion as well with that is I don't think he's going to fail in that regard, in the sense that he has always succeeded every step of the way throughout his athletic career ever since he was young, before high school. So I don't think there's any question with that, but still I understand why some people feel there's a need for him to improve in certain areas. Anthony, glad you're here. Shout out to you. Shout out to everybody who's here right now. I want to get to a lot of stuff to unpack from Friday night and Saturday night. Hit the like button if you guys like this. If you like these live streams, I'll keep doing them. It's something I just want to kind of present in addition to the content on the website, and also a chance for you guys to ask questions. I think it's gone pretty well. Hopefully you like this one as well. So the other thing that stood out to me, and again, if you guys are just jumping in here, Miami will have their first scrimmage on Sunday night. They've had 8 practices so far, so they went 6 straight days with a practice, day off on Thursday, then they come back with a couple practices Friday, Saturday. We were able to talk to some other position coach, Stephen Field, tight ends coach, on Friday night. I want to get to that. Brevin Jordan, Will Mallory, as well as the coordinators tonight. SB, glad you're here. Yeah, he's a winner, no doubt. That's the other thing. Not only has he succeeded individually, but he's been a winner at every level he's been in. Again, and flipping that over to the basketball court when he did play. A winner there as well. And I like that. I like guys that are successful, that essentially sports or football, it just, in a way, I don't say it comes easy for these guys at the top of their games, but it does seem that way in the sense that they always rise to the top in any situation. So the one thing also with D'Eriq that teammates have been talking about is just the praise and the raves he's getting from his teammates in terms of being a leader, you know, and they felt like this team needed that. And I don't think there's any question. When you say that, you're talking about, like, as excited as you guys might be for this season, you're still talking about a team that won 6 games last year, 6-7, the terrible 3-game stretch at the end of the year. And I felt like, you know, there was a lot of question marks coming into this year, but a guy like D'Eriq comes in, kind of sets the tone. And one thing that Brevin said when he talked Friday night was, you know, nobody had to appoint D'Eriq that he was QB1, that he was a starting quarterback of the Hurricanes. He just came in and presented himself that he was that guy. He began the leadership and rally, you know, getting guys to talk, getting to know them, reaching out to them. Communication was big for him. particularly in the offseason. I remember asking Mike Harley about that, about their relationship, and he said it built over the offseason, even though De'Aaron was in Houston and other guys were scattered around, particularly in the Southeast. Mike was a guy that was in Atlanta, kind of went back and forth between Fort Lauderdale and Atlanta. You guys saw his training videos. A lot of fun watching him kind of do different things. So the leadership that De'Aaron has shown, and I think that's important because this team needed that. I don't think there's any question. Not only did they need someone with his productivity, particularly at that position, but the leadership ability of essentially, having someone to look at in terms of where are we going from here after this 6-win season. And I thought he couldn't have come in at a better time in terms of what the program needed. And I just think he's going to be a very important player, not only because of the things he does on the field, but because he kind of sets the tone. You guys know when there's good players, it's very easy to look to him, to look to those people leading the way, and you just want to kind of copy them. I remember, talking to former, just kind of veering off a little bit, but talking to former Hurricanes that played in the major leagues, and they talked about going up to the minor leagues, and they saw pretty much guys that they played with that were stars and going to be stars in the major leagues. And basically, even though they essentially were all at the same level at the minor leagues, they kind of pointed out and said, oh, if that's what that guy's doing, I'm going to do that too. And they recognized that even though they were peers at the time of their development, but they just felt like those people were essentially destined for stardom. And I feel like I'm bringing that up because I think De'Aaron King has that too, in the sense that whatever he's doing, I'm going to do that too. And I think that's good for this team. Sigmund, glad you're here. Shout out to you. David's here as well. And ZooPride 8547. Yo, what's going on? Okay, I want to get to the other things too. De'Aaron King, great to talk about him. But so I asked Rhett Lashley a question about Don Chaney Jr. because Don missed the spring with the shoulder injury. And we kind of heard over the offseason, you guys did too, just that Don was going to be ready for fall camp. So it's not a surprise to see him out there. And I think, again, we just have to take the little snippets that we get from not being out there in terms of the videos and the photos. But you saw Don right there with De'Aaron King, essentially a first-team rep, working on that zone read, taking a handoff. And again, small snippet, but it's good to see him in that mix. It's good to see him working with De'Aaron. So I asked Rhett how he's looked. You didn't get a chance to see him, Rhett being a new offensive coordinator. You didn't get a chance to see him in the spring, so how's he looked, to you now? And I was a little surprised by his answer. And obviously, generally you get positive responses from coaches. But he just said, man, he looks really good. He's really impressed with his downhill running ability, and that's good to hear because, again, these are things you saw from him in high school. And I remember watching him at Berlin, and you saw these abilities, and you're hoping those kind of things translate in terms of whatever they're doing in high school that made him successful. You'd like to see that move forward. And that was good that Rhett, a guy that just got in here, offensive coordinator in January. So he didn't get a chance to see Don presumably play in high school. So it was good to see him that he thought that ability was there. And as well as he thought he looked big and he's running well. And Don's a guy that's measured in at 5'10", 210, which is good size at that position. And you've heard about all of his strength numbers. So I think that's good in terms of it. Basically, you're seeing the strength there at the college level as well. So that's good to see. Good to hear that Don's doing well. Again, just to recap. So Cameron Harris is that lead back right now. I don't think there's any question. Something's going to have to happen to unseat him. But then you got Jalen Knighton, Don Chaney Jr., both freshmen, and also Robert Burns, who's got about 20 carries last year, something like that. And he's in the mix too. So it's the 4 running backs. Don Chaney Jr. is just a guy that's looking to essentially rise up and show that he deserves that. And what you guys have seen from Miami in recent years, they do use multiple backs in a season, in a game. So even though that Cameron's out and ahead of everyone at this time, you're looking, if you're those other guys, you're looking to definitely be in that mix as well. I want to get to some questions here. Yeah, Sigmund, how's the freshman running back doing? Yes, Don Chaney Jr. mentioned him. And Jalen Knighton here, he's doing well also. And he's a guy I think that can catch balls out of the backfield. They can use them in so many different ways. I think this offense is going to really help a guy like Jalen Knighton. Kind of going back to Don Chaney, they definitely ran the ball. He comes out of that wishbone offense out of Belen. So this is definitely going to be an adjustment. It's a lot different. But and as far as his pass catching, whereas Jalen would be used a little bit more at the high school level when he played at Deerfield Beach, Don essentially watching his film and also being at his game, it seems like the pretty much, and I'm generalizing, but it seems like pretty much the only pass play he ran was basically running out of the backfield and either catching a screen or, something definitely off to the right there. Just basic play, but it worked for Belen, and it's definitely going to be an adjustment to him is my point, that the offensive schemes, the passing routes that running backs will be running will just definitely be an adjustment. So, and with that, another thing Rhett said about him was he's picking up things well, and I thought that was good to hear as well. Not just the physical abilities, but the adjustment to the offense, the things I just mentioned. Sounds like things are going pretty well for him. So it's a good start there. What else do we got? Okay, D Nice. Yeah, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Yeah, thanks for having the show tonight. Yeah, no doubt. This one's a little bit different. I actually planned it with these. I've been just essentially, okay, if I get my work done, my content, my writing, the video's up, I'll go live. Also depends on the day, but this one I kind of just put it out there a little bit. So that's why you definitely want to make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you don't miss any of these. And if you do, you can always watch them back. I always put up these as well, so you can watch it back. So we're just going to, again, if you're just jumping on, if this is new to you, what I like to do is just kind of recap the Zoom calls that we did, kind of just offer my opinions on some things and maybe clarify some things or answer some questions you guys might have. So Anthony, yeah, question about the coaching staff. Do we have any graduate assistants on both sides of the ball? Yeah, I think that they'll definitely be there. I don't know who they are right now. And some of this stuff is a little bit tougher and not seeing them exactly at practice every day like we used to. So it just is what it is, but that's definitely a good question. Definitely something to keep in mind moving forward, because it's always been just the years I've been covering the team. The graduate assistants have actually felt like they've been integrated really well. I felt like they've always had a role on the team as staff members, helping not just my point is not just behind the scenes type stuff. They're literally in practice, really working with the guys, whether it's an offensive line. Basically, they're able to, you have your main offensive line coach, and then you have a graduate assistant who's there to essentially help out quite a bit, and I think that happens all across the board with whether it's the graduate assistants or anybody dealing with quality control, those kind of positions. They definitely get them hands-on as much as possible. They've definitely been an asset to the program. Yeah, SB, yep, no doubt about the Knighton. Definitely agree. Buddy's here. Glad you're here. We'll be able to watch tomorrow's scrimmage. I hope you will. No, but they're closing that thing down. We'll try to present as much information as possible. We will get a report after practice tomorrow night, so definitely check the site for that. We'll have that up as soon as possible. I think you guys have been seeing that with some of the stuff we've been able to do. Videos of the coaches been up as quickly as possible. Definitely giving you those full interviews for you guys to check out and get a sense on maybe some of the questions that are going on, and also make sure you're getting everything that you're looking for in terms of coverage of the team. I know it's a little bit difficult right now with everything. I wish we could be out there. It just is what it is. We're doing everything we can, though. And that's, again, why I want to do these live streams. So, okay, so just kind of touching base. We touched on Don Chaney Jr., De'Aaron King. Another thing that stood out to me, I want to go back to Friday night with Brevin Jordan and listening to him talk. And it's not a surprise to hear him so excited and animated, just glad to be out there. I think that's a given. Essentially, whenever Brevin talks, he usually has a really upbeat attitude, personality. It's great to see. It's fun to be around, not just for us, but I'm sure his teammates feel the same way. Just one of those infectious personalities type of guys. But that aside, the one thing that stood out to me in hearing him talk was just how hard he actually worked to get back up and running. He missed last season, those last few games, last 2 to 3 games, played a little bit, was out with the foot injury, missed the spring. And what he talked about in the offseason was just the amount of work that he put in, the grind, the up in the morning, 5 in the morning. He really talked so much about how much effort he really put into being ready for the season, being ready for fall camp. And essentially what we've seen from videos and talking to the players and coaches, he's been out there all the time. And I think that's great to see, but also, again, just the work ethic that he showed. And it's not about, his place on the team. You guys know where he stands on the team, one of the best offensive players on the team, if not the best. Probably, I'll take De'Aaron King. But in terms of, not just that, but also just wanted to be out there. And the other thing that stood out was, look, somebody And these kind of questions happen. Do you feel like you're the best tight end in the country? Mackey Award, do you think you are? That kind of stuff comes out. It's not a surprise to hear that line of questioning. And it's very easy for a player to jump in like, yeah, I'm confident. I definitely am. That's the line of answers you typically hear. And I thought it was great that Brevin didn't do that. Brevin responded that said, no, he's not. He said, because I'm not out there. He knows that being out there is part of the part of being successful in football is being present, being on the field, being available for your teammates. And he knows what he's dealt with injuries, and certainly unfortunate the last couple of years, but he knows the reality of it. He knows the reality. He's got to be out there. And that's stuff that we talk about. Maybe fans talk about it too, but for him to address it, I thought that was very good of him because he knows the importance that he needs to be healthy. And that's why I also think that was important for him to have a good offseason physically, not just for recovery, but also just for strengthening everything so he can handle the load as much as possible. And certainly unfortunate things happen with injuries, but he definitely wanted to do all the work that he could to make sure he was ready and prevent those kind of things because he knows how important it is, not just for the team, but looking at this as a draft year for him, playing well, having a successful season. Plus, he also said that those 3 losses at the end of the year really bothered him, and that was essentially unprovoked. Nobody was asking him about that. He just said that how tough that was being out and missing those games, not being able to contribute as much as possible. So Donnie's here. Glad you're here. Tana's here as well. Okay. Let's see. Tyler Van Dyke is a real deal. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not going to lie. We'll see how it works with Tyler Van Dyke. I've not seen very much, I'll be honest. Obviously, he's from the Northeast. Didn't see him in high school like that. Seen him throw the ball and things like that. But also, I did see him spring ball first week. But again, I will wait and see how he does before I make any proclamations or declarations about him and his future. So it'll definitely, this is a big year for him in the sense that he's got to focus on development. De'Aaron King's a starter, and N'Kosi Perry, Tate Martell, the backups. And that was asked as well to Rhett, who's leading in that number 2 spot. And he said it's even. He likes essentially what they're both doing, and they're working hard. Not surprised to hear that. Rhett not giving that separation right now, and looking forward to the scrimmage, and maybe there'll be some separation there. But I do, even though N'Kosi's played a lot more than Tate, I do find it interesting in the fact that it is a new offense. And if you're looking at it from the surface, maybe Tate can be successful in this offense. However, N'Kosi has experience, and I do think N'Kosi also fits this offense as well. I think a guy like, going back to Tyler, I think his running ability is something that this offense would like. And even, so I don't know if that's a particular strength of his, the way it is for the other 3. So we'll see, again, with that and how he'll fit into the offense as well. So we'll see. What else do we got? Buddy, loved all the video games. I'm glad you did, man. It's been a little bit different. I'm not going to lie. Put a lot of those on pause or wrapped up the seasons. But I definitely, some of these I wanted to be dynasties. So I definitely have them ready to go, ready to move forward. And I have some creative ideas moving forward as well that I'd like to do. But one thing I definitely am enjoying and still looking to do is those simulations. I've been doing those sneak peeks. I've got some other teams I haven't done yet. Florida State, obviously, haven't done one of those yet. And those high school ones, those are really fun to put together. I've got one in the works that I've been working on a little bit. So hopefully you like those. If you haven't seen any of that, just go ahead and Google that video game, that high school, Miami Central Northwestern, or Palmetto American Heritage. It'll pop right up. You'll see it. So check those out if you haven't yet. Those are a lot of fun to make. And I think you guys like them too. And I know the players on those teams, I definitely get a lot of positive feedback from them as well. What else have we got here? David, any word on anyone else to opt out? I've seen some top high school. Yeah, nothing right now. There's nothing to report right now. There was a time where we were asking Manny about that, if anybody else is or has. And he did admit that they've had to talk to some guys about things, but he didn't name any names in the sense that anybody else has opted out other than Rousseau. So as far as we know, everyone else is there. And if we hear anything else, we'll let you know for sure. What else? Yeah, the portal will be stacked with quality quarterbacks next spring. Yeah, definitely. And glad Tyler's not near the caliber. He's from my county. Yeah. So we'll see about quarterback. I think everything with the transfer portal is just up in the air for sure. I think you guys have all understand why. So, okay, I want to get to a few other things that we talked about these last couple of days. So with Stephen Field, tight ends coach, I asked him a question about Will Mallory because, Will Mallory stepped in for Brevin last year. He had 3 straight 4-catch games at the end of the year. Great to see. And Donnie dropping in. I appreciate it. The super chat. The first super chat of the night. I appreciate it for sure. Much love to you. Thanks for the support. That's awesome. Definitely unexpected, but I appreciate it. Go Canes. Let's show ESPN that their predictions are absurd. Of course. I don't think people realize the impact that these transfers can make. The high-level guys that can really help this team in terms of where they were at before having these transfers. So, but again, they're coming off that 6-win season. It's hard to shake, but no doubt it definitely feels like a different teams in terms of the De'Aaron King, Quincy Roche, Jalen Phillips. I think you guys are finally getting excited about him, so that's great because I think he's the real deal. He's my breakout defensive player of the year. So yeah, Donnie, hopefully they can do that, and definitely thanks again for that super chat. If anybody else wants to jump in, you hit that $sign at the bottom just to donate. Anything I'll do. Anything is super helpful. I definitely appreciate it. So Donnie, thanks again for starting off the night well. And again, going back to Stephen Field. So with Will Mallory, the catches were there. The production was there when Brevin stepped aside. And Will actually led the team in receptions and receiving yards in those 3 games. Goes over 200 yards. But I asked Coach Field what the biggest improvement that Will has made in the past year, essentially this year from a year ago. And the one thing he said was his physicality, in particular in the blocking, responsibilities for a tight end. And I thought that was good to hear because, like I said, he had the production with catching the ball, and I thought maybe he'd go that route, just being more productive, more confident. Maybe he's quicker, faster, and things like that. But he definitely mentioned his physicality. And I think he touched on his strength, but the point was about being more physical. To me, that's a mentality. That's an attitude. The way he said physicality, it's not just that he got a little bit extra weight on him, which he did. He added 15 pounds from last season compared to this year, according to the official roster. So he's up to 6'5", 245. So that's great to see for Will. In particular, though, with not just the physicality, but Coach Field mentioned that his blocking has gotten much better in the C and D gap. And I think that's really good for a tight end because the fact that he mentioned both of them, because he can stay inside with the tackle in that C gap, but also that D gap as well, where he can, which is what you want from a tight end from the outside. Either you're helping off a rush end or maybe a blitzing linebacker, or maybe even a defensive back, maybe a safety or something like that. And maybe he's just trying to just definitely create some contact there to make it harder for them to get to the quarterback or in on the running back. And I thought that was good. The fact that he's improved in both of those areas, both of those gaps, blocking assignments have improved. Physicality, the attitude is there. I think that's definitely great to see. And it's definitely great to see that there are specific areas of improvement players are making as they progress. Again, this is Will's junior year, so I thought that was good to see, good to hear. And once again, important for Miami's offense and the program, because you want Will to essentially, if Brevin has to step aside again, or if you're looking at him leaving next year and then it'll be Will taking on that leadership role, you want Will to be ready in terms of production and being a complete tight end. And it sounds like he's on his way to doing that, even though they are different players, and he still is working at some things. So I think that's good as well. So I thought that's what stood out to me with Coach Field. I touched on the thing that stood out to me with Brevin Jordan, with his work ethic. And again, excitement's there. He's definitely excited, wants to play the whole thing. He's ready, making plays, and that's great to see for the offense. And then with Will, I mentioned the blocking as well. And one thing, too, that he's just so complimentary of Brevin. I think it's good. But also, I think Will knows, his focus is about improving himself, and just making sure he's productive. And I think I touched on it before on one of these live streams, just the important factor of, if they're going to play 2 tight ends at the same time, which is a possibility, Will's got to be a very capable asset for the offense in terms of you're going to take out a wide receiver most likely to make way for Brevin and Will. And I think that exchange is important if Will is able to rise up and be a capable receiver, do the things he needs to be a threat on offense. So we'll see again how things continue to develop. If you're just jumping in, we got a scrimmage tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first scrimmage of the preseason. It'll be practice number 9. Can't believe it's gone that fast. So yeah, D is here. What's going on? Go Canes, yeah, for sure. What are the Coach Fields' opinions of Dominic? I think the thing with Dominic and the other guys talked about them as well. Dominic and as well as Larry Hodges, the other 2 tight ends, the young guys, they both like that they're working hard. They're trying. That's the sense that everyone has talked about with both those guys. They're all doing well in terms of doing the right things, working hard in practice. I don't think they're not challenging the top 2 guys, anything like that, but they're both, progressing as young players. And I think that's a big thing. And Dominic, I think from what I saw in the spring, showed that he belonged in the sense that, the college level, he's got some development to do, but it was good to see him in the spring here early and just putting in that work. And we'll see how he develops as years go on. I think tight end's a very interesting position in terms of a player's development that you can certainly continue to improve. You see this at other colleges quite a bit where guys just continue to steadily improve each year, and then all of a sudden later in their career, junior, senior year, they can be very productive, very reliable players. And I think a guy like Dominic, I think you'll just keep an eye on that as he continues to progress. So again, tonight, Coach Baker talked, Coach Rhett Lashley talked, and they talked for the first time since practices began. They talked the night before everything started. So another question was to Blake Baker. Oh, I haven't even gotten to Blake Baker. So yeah, I was able to get that first question in the interview. You can check that out. I got the video up on the channel right now. And I asked basically what has been standing out to him in this first week. We're not able to get a real sense on exactly what's going on in every single practice. We're able to ask more general. We typically ask more general questions. But I wanted to ask maybe what's been standing out to him in the first week. Anything that's surprised as a group, as a unit, as a defense. And the one thing that he said was, the competition is there. He likes seeing that. Obviously, the hitting is different right now. But he likes the competition in terms of everybody seems to be competing, running to the ball, talking about those kind of things in the sense that the effort is there and the competition is there. And I think you see that with a lot of different positions. You talk about the safety. There's 3 guys working to fit into 2 spots. With the upperclassmen, young guys obviously looking to stake their claim. The cornerbacks, you're looking for Takori Couch, Christian Williams to really push those other 2 corners with Al Blades and DJ Ivy. The linebacker, Zach's got a spot most likely. But then there's other guys as well. There's a lot of competition going on. I know it seems down on the depth chart, but that 4th defensive end is very intriguing to me. In the sense where you got Quincy Roche, Jalen Phillips, Jafari Harvey as the top 3. And then there's a cutoff right there. But you need that 4th defensive end on multiple packages and just having that 2nd defensive end on that 2 deep to really insert in and play. And I think there's multiple guys there working as well, whether it's Cameron Williams off a red shirt, Chance Williams, who enrolled in the spring, highly regarded recruit, or maybe there's some other guys. They've tried some defensive tackles switching over. But I think that's the thing, maybe just kind of keep an eye on those guys. Or maybe some of the guys that just came in with Quentin Williams, Elijah Roberts is a bigger defensive end that might slide inside as well. But just keep an eye on that 4th defensive end competition. But so that was the thing that Blake said. And then, and man, a lot of questions in here. That's great to see. A lot of comments. Definitely good to see. Glad you guys are here. Glad you're showing your support. Obviously, once again, Donnie, thanks for that super chat. That's awesome. Definitely appreciate that donation. So typically the way the Zoom calls are set up is each media member gets one question to ask if they want to ask, and you can kind of jump in. And I was actually able to squeeze one extra question in to Blake Baker, the last question as well, because I wanted to ask about linebackers Wayne Steed and Bradley Jennings Jr. And I think they're certainly forgotten. I think they're often overlooked because they missed last season with injuries. They both suffered their injuries in April, over a full year ago, missed all of the season. They were going to miss the spring, or they weren't out there when we were out there during those first week. I'm just kind of curious how they were doing. And he said they've been able to do everything. He said they've looked great, and he just kind of expanded on it. He really credited them both for just their work ethic in terms of getting back healthy. He said they've looked great. I have an article, you can see it right there on the website, of him talking about just really praising these guys. And he said, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. They've exceeded my expectations with what they've been able to do. And I felt like this kind of at the beginning of preseason practices, where I felt like Bradley Jennings, and I say his name first because if he has that experience, surprisingly, he's played the second most games among the linebackers at Miami, even though he's missed plenty of time. But it felt like that he could challenge for a starting spot. And I don't think a lot of people would definitely have mentioned his name because he's coming off the injury. There's some other young guys there as well. And what I heard tonight, again, the way Blake was speaking about him, it definitely reassured me that it made me feel like he definitely can be in that mix. Certainly he's got to shake off some rust from being out. But both of them, it seems like they're both going to challenge for playing time just based on how Blake responded. And it just had the sense that he was really surprised of how well they were doing, how hard they've worked. He said there's some maturity there. He thinks they understand the game, and just they've been away from the game for so long. There's some, he didn't use the words, but it seems like there's some hunger there that they're really glad to be back. And I think that's great, particularly that position. I mean, there's not many other positions that you'd want that other than a linebacker that's really hungry. Really glad to be back out there showing that passion. I think that's a great attributes to have at that position. So it's good to see that they're out here, and I think things are going well for them, and it's good to hear. And I definitely want to get that in there. And even though there's not been a lot of buzz about them, I find it to be interesting to how they're doing. And definitely, I think those two guys are players to watch moving forward, even though they might have been overlooked before. So, yeah, buddy, what's going on? Yep, I appreciate that. Yeah, hit the like button. Go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't yet. If you like these live streams, hit the like button. If you like that the Hurricanes are out at practices and that we're trying to give you guys plenty of content, videos, photos, all that stuff. We had a photo gallery of just the freshmen, all that stuff we've been able to pick apart and get up there for you. So I know any of you guys that have been following the site for a long time, you know what to expect when we do fall camp stuff. We really like to just give you guys with as much information as content as possible. It's been much different this year. It's been a little harder having to rely on photos and videos sent to us as opposed to going out and getting all that stuff. And me personally, I always like doing that. That's why you see all the videos on the channel. I always like giving you guys drills and reps and as many players as possible, breaking it down. So I think you guys really, I try to give you guys a sense of being there if you're not able to be there. So that's my goal. And it's been, not going to lie, it's been a little difficult not being able to do that as much as I would like. But definitely we're trying, and we definitely are doing everything we can on the site. There's no question about that, but it's definitely been a little bit different. And I think you guys know that. So that's great if you hit that like button. And, okay, Zoo Pride. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Okay, well, you got two good questions here. We'll start with this first one. Outside of King and Roche, who else on the team do you see being a top prospects going into the NFL draft? Jalen Phillips will be without question. He's draft eligible. He's definitely a guy that if he has that breakout year the way I expect, I don't think there's any question that he could be a high pick. I think in terms of those two guys, I think he could be higher than those two guys. Obviously, I know what you're talking about with Gregory Rousseau. Obviously, he's going to be a high pick as well. Buddy jumping in again with this. Oh my goodness, dude. We got the GOAT right here dropping in with a couple donations. I appreciate it. Hey, honestly, I appreciate the hard work. I appreciate that you say that because honestly, it's for you guys. Like I'm glad to be able to present you guys with plenty of information as much as I can do. It's all for you guys. Like you guys are the diehard fans. If you're on this live stream right now on a Saturday night, you guys are diehard fans. You want to know what's going on with the Canes. And buddy, I know you're a diehard fan and you're supporting this channel. I definitely appreciate it, man. This is great. So yeah, I'll keep the hard work going. Everybody on the staff is doing the same thing for the site. We're definitely all trying to just do as much as we can. We're not going to let up. Even if things are a little bit more challenging for us, we're definitely going to do everything we can, including these live streams. So as far as other NFL draft prospects go, other than Jalen Phillips, you mentioned Roche, I think it's a little bit interesting. I think a guy like Jared Williams, we don't know exactly his level, but he is a tackle. He's got great size, 6'6", 308, that offensive tackle spot. So if he has a good year, he's a guy that could be in there in that discussion as well. I think that's another guy to look at. Brevin Jordan, touched on him being draft eligible. He's certainly a guy in that could be a top pick as well with a strong season, healthy season, productive. I think he already checks some boxes that the NFL teams like, and I think he's got a chance to certainly grow from that. So, and then maybe some other guys, if you want to go down the depth chart a little bit or a little bit down the prospect list, maybe guys outside the radar going into the season, I think you look at those defensive backs. I think you look at a guy like Bubba Bolden, and Bubba's doing well. Blake Baker said that tonight. Bubba's doing well, doing everything athletically, and I think he's the guy. If he can have a strong season, again, you're talking about down on the depth chart in terms of down on the prospect list. I shouldn't say depth chart. Down on the prospect list, maybe a guy that's being overlooked right now going into the season, but a guy that could rise up. I think a Bubba Bolden with his athletic ability, his ability to deflect passes, intercept passes in the passing game, I think he could rise up. I really like his height, weight combination, and his speed is there, his quickness. I like that at that safety spot. So if he has a really good year, I definitely could see someone like that. And I know this might surprise you, but maybe those corners, if they have really good years, and maybe they're still a year away because they're only juniors, but with DJ Ivey and Al Blades Jr., they have good size. They started last year, and in your mind, you could see how it's possible for them to take that jump to be a draft-eligible cornerback with good size and speed. So I think maybe those are two guys, again, right now going into the season, nobody's talking about them in the NFL draft. But again, that size-speed combination, there's a possibility with another strong season. Obviously, they're going to have to play better than they did a year ago. But I think it's possible. And I think, just more experience. And again, they could still be a year away. But I think those are some draft guys that that most people aren't thinking about right now. And I want to just throw those names out there as some possibilities. Buddy, what's going on? And again, Buddy, if you have any questions, make sure you drop it. I want to make sure I can get to your questions. You're dropping in on these super chats is great. Donations are much appreciated. I want to make sure if you have any questions, go ahead and ask, and I'll definitely get those answered. And Zupride also had another good question about the offensive line, the starting five on the offensive line. And I think this, to answer your question, I think it might have changed, even just a week into it. And I say that because I think I'm really starting to, it definitely, let me put this in the right way. Okay, so John Campbell is a guy that, the way they talked about John Campbell, he's a guy that was not a starter last year. Miami returns plenty of experience on the starting offensive line from a year ago, but John Campbell wasn't one of those guys. Made 2 spot starts and essentially was just okay, but new offensive line coach, he really likes John Campbell. And the way Rhett Lashley talks about it, you can tell they really like him even still. They seem to talk very highly about John. And it's not that they're not going to work out other guys, but maybe he's a guy that overlooked going in after the end of last season. Even though he started the bowl game, I don't know if you would have expected him to start in 2020. Not only start, but he's kind of just there at left tackle, right there in the mix. So much so that they're looking at Zion Nelson as a guard possibility. Not only did Zion move to right tackle in the spring, but in the fall, he's been working out at left guard a little bit. Added some weight. They want to see if he can play guard, and they want to see if it works out for Zion there. And I thought that was interesting. Not that they're not looking at Zion at left tackle either, but just that they want to give him a look there as well. Really, to me, says a lot about John Campbell, about how he's doing. I guess if we're picking all 5, I still feel like Jared Williams is the best tackle on the team. I think he'd be best suited at left tackle, although he has plenty of experience at right tackle, and I definitely could see them just leaving him at right tackle. Just to recap, he started 19 games at Houston. 17 of them were at right tackle. The other 2 at left tackle. So he definitely has more experience there. And the one thing that Rhett said that caught my mind, and I thought it particularly pertained to Jared, was he felt like the left tackle position was a little overrated. Maybe he's downplaying. I interpreted that. Maybe he's downplaying a little bit that they could leave Jared at right tackle, even though he's about. I guess that's looking into it with him out, without him saying those words. That's kind of what crossed my mind. So maybe I could see him staying at right tackle because of that. So I think that'll be interesting to watch. As far as the guards go, I think they really like DJ Scaife at right guard. I think they really like Corey Gaynor at center. And I think the rest of those other positions will work itself out. I think Jared is definitely going to be the right tackle, assuming he doesn't play left. So let's just stay with that. So I think the left tackle, left guard is the most interesting with Zion Nelson. They're going to have to figure out what they want to do there. And if John can hold off and really stay in the positive with the coach's mind and stay at that left tackle spot, I think those are your 5. I think I could see Zion playing a guard position, even though he played tackle a year ago. So there's certainly things that he needed to work on from left tackle from last year. And I think it shows in the coach's decision and the fact that they wanted to move him to right tackle in the spring, the fact that they wanted to try him out at left guard here in the fall, while still keeping in mind that he could play left tackle. So I think that those are the 5. And as far as things changing, maybe there's some guys that jump in there. Jalen Rivers is a guy that they're excited about as a young player, but to me, he's at least a year away at this time. Assuming everybody else is healthy, I think he's just a little bit, just has some more development to go, even though they do like him and they do say positive things about him as far as things he's doing. Things that stands out to me again with Jalen Rivers, highly regarded recruit, is that he pays attention to detail, a perfectionist, takes coaching. And when I hear all those things, you definitely can see how it could be a little overwhelming because things aren't typically perfect as a freshman. And you could just see how it might take him some time to really perfect what he wants to do, and where he's very confident, because confidence is such a big thing in football. So it might just take a little bit more than a year with Jalen. And it doesn't mean that he's not going to be a good player. It just means it might not happen this season as far as their top 5 or their starting 5. And the other guy, maybe in a wild card, is Isaiah Walker. Maybe you look at him as a tackle if he's eligible, if he gets that waiver. So D-Nice, Cam Harris chances if he has a good season. Yeah, I assume you mean, D-Nice, I assume you mean the NFL draft. I don't see it, but to be honest, even though I thought the production was there with DJ Dallas, DJ was a guy that always surprised me in terms of his production. I definitely will admit that. I did not expect that from him. And he had really good productive seasons for Miami, and definitely deserves all the credit. And I didn't see him as a particularly as highly regarded as the NFL did in terms of the draft. So I'm only saying that I'm admitting that I didn't see a lot, or I wouldn't say that because he was productive. I don't want to downplay. He just, to me, wasn't Lamar Miller. He wasn't Duke Johnson. That's my point with these other running backs I've seen at Miami, Frank Gore, those guys that I've covered. I didn't put DJ in that group. So I'm saying this because with Cam Harris, I don't see him in that light. However, if he has one of these crazy productive seasons in this offense where he could do the dual threat thing, where he can catch the ball out of the backfield, which we've seen a little bit, in his career. I think last year, he had 16 catches, which is pretty solid for a back, especially for a guy that was not the primary back. So if he's able to show that he can handle taking a hit, stay healthy, be productive, have one of those big years, maybe he jumps into the NFL mix as a guy that I would not have expected going into the year, and definitely willing to be surprised again at the running back spot. So again, and hopefully maybe the DJ stuff, my conversation, my thought process, maybe my opinions, the way I just talked about, didn't make a lot of sense because he was productive. I think in short that I just didn't put him in that group of other backs that I've seen at Miami. But yeah, and glad he got drafted. Glad he did well. I remember going up to Brunswick, Georgia, watching him play in high school. That was a lot of fun. So definitely, hopefully he's doing well in Seattle there. So got some other questions. Let's see here. Talking about the bowl games, which bowl games, 20 bowl games? I have no idea, buddy. That's a good question. I wish I could answer your question, man. You've been so kind on the super chat. It's definitely interesting to see how bowl games will go. I think just a lot is very uncertain right now. I don't think there's any question about that. I think we all just kind of take it one game at a time. It's so cliche, but not just with football. Hopefully everybody is doing that as well with family, with work, with whatever you have going on. Hopefully everybody's staying safe, staying healthy. Just want as positive as you can be right now. And yeah, we'll see about the bowl games, how everything will shake out. I think there's a lot that has to happen before that in terms of putting in a season, productive season, multiple games, and the whole thing. So we'll see, buddy. Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't able to list all 20 for you, but it's definitely an interesting time right now, and we'll see what happens. So, Anthony, on our roster, who are the 2 players you can see being dark horses for the Doak Walker or the Biletnikoff? Yeah, the Doak is. They mentioned there's only 4 running backs and 2 of them are freshmen. So Cam Harris would be the most, probably the biggest chance because it's a starter. Again, he has to be productive in the whole thing. But again, that's a big dark horse. As far as the Biletnikoff, yeah, you know what? I think and I don't about awards and things like that, and some of this stuff is probably down the road for them to really be in the conversation. But a guy like Jeremiah Payton pops up in terms of it's hard to take this jump from 1 catch to, the best receiver in the country. That's quite a big leap. The only thing I'll say, and I want to make sure we add, is, wide receivers coach Rob Likens was very complimentary of Jeremiah, even though he has only the 1 catch last year in the 4 games. And Rob didn't coach him last year, so he's just getting to know him. And he said he's got the first-round talent. And I thought that was very that stuff typically is said by fans, and maybe media throws it around a little bit, particularly like from a player early in their careers. Or maybe behind the scenes you talk to the coach a little bit, and they might give you some positive feedback. We really think he's going to be, that definitely happens. And you definitely hear that. You don't hear coaches typically come right out so early on in a player's career and talk about first-round talent, essentially unprovoked, in the sense he wasn't asked, hey, will he be a first rounder, that kind of thing. He just kind of was talking about him, and he just really likes his abilities, his physical attributes, athletic ability. He said it's comparable, and I find it interesting because Rob has coached recent first-round draft picks at wide receiver, so I find he's got valuable information to give. So in terms of like a Biletnikoff or anything like that, how about just a guy that they think very highly of, and I think that's Jeremiah Payton. And because of a guy that has coached highly productive wide receivers, and they think very highly of this one in terms of his production possibilities moving forward with this offense. So he's a guy just, redshirt freshman. He'll be one to watch moving forward. So, yeah, buddy, those field goals, man, I'm sure hurt everybody last year. And I know, you probably heard Coach talk midway through last year after it felt like another missed field goal late in a game. He felt like they were only a few plays away from being undefeated. That kind of talk popped up. But, I felt like it was interesting that he would say that. But honestly, I feel like fans like you, buddy, I feel like other fans were probably saying the same thing to people. Like, if we just made the field goals, if we just did a few more things right, things would have been much better early on in the year. And then who knows? But that's kind of how sports work. There's definitely a fine line between winning and losing. And certainly the way I don't feel like it came down to only field goals, even though the little result was on some of those kicks would have made a big difference. They certainly needed to improve in certain other areas as well, but I'm glad you feel better. I think you should. I don't think you're thinking out of line for what they have at kicker. The Jose Borregales has been a proven kicker for 3 years. What he's been able to do at FIU and what he was able to do against Miami. You guys know what he was able to do kicking those 50-yarders. That was big time as well. So you're looking at, in terms of being comfortable and confident, pleased about that situation. You definitely should be, because he's a guy that's proven and the ability is there, and it certainly helps quite a bit. There's no doubt about it. And it's going to help out the offense in general too. Like, you don't have that much. You have pressure to succeed. You have pressure to get in the end zone. However, if you don't, you got 3 points. You feel like you've got 3 points coming your way either way. And you can't say that they felt that way last year. And I wonder if some of the red zone, maybe they were starting to tense up a little bit, just a little bit with the way the kicking game was going. And not anyone in particular, because multiple guys got opportunities and struggled. It was just kind of a mess all year long. And the only thing I'll say to that is, you see that in college football, and some of the times we don't see it here in Miami. We've seen pretty successful kickers over the years, but it's not surprising to see college kickers struggle for a season. And so definitely, buddy, definitely it's good that you feel that way. And like I said, you definitely should. So, yeah, okay, Chris, would benefit Yeah, you want to talk about Jake Garcia? I know you're a big fan, Anthony. If he transfers to school in Florida, like he already transferred to Georgia, I don't see him making another move. The one thing that we actually had an insider on our board talk about Jake, and he just feels like just being closer to Florida, closer to Miami. Miami's still in the picture. It's still a possibility. I think many of you are holding out hope that he will make that flip from USC to Miami, and Miami's still talking to him. You still see Jake talking to Miami commits, so you never know what might happen. I would say just definitely something to just keep an eye on. What else have we got here? If you have any other questions, go ahead and drop in the chat. I want to get to a few other things that I want to make sure I get it before. I don't want to wrap this up, but I don't know if we can do a 2-hour video like that first day. But I'm glad you guys are here for this. And once again, I want to do this more often. I want to do it anytime I can. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. I know Buddy is enjoying it. And Donnie as well. I know you are as well. So that's great. So Donnie, I'm glad you jumped in here with some questions. Appreciate that super chat. With the Pac-12 postponing to spring, do you think Jake? I think it's interesting. I think Donnie. I think it also just touch on him a little bit. We'll just see. I feel like everything's up in the air, but it's definitely a fluid situation until he signs. I think people will always, think about Jake. Maybe there's a possibility again him making that move to Georgia. You definitely feel like there's a possibility. That I think the big thing, if you're thinking about what Jake will do, I think if he's able to get down to Miami, it's not going to be easy. I don't see official visits happening, those kind of things. At least nothing's open right now. And it certainly probably won't happen. Just a guess based on what's going on. But if he makes a trip on his own, I think we'll just kind of see how that plays out. I think that'll definitely be the big thing to watch with Jake. Now that he's in Georgia, will he be able to make that trip down to Miami at some point? Although he's already been to Miami. He's been to campus. He was at Paradise Camp. He's thrown around. He knows the guys. So, he doesn't have to go, in the sense that he's already been down to UM. So, but I think it's definitely a good sign for Miami if they can get him down. And I think it's also important to just keep paying attention to Miami's recruiting class. If they continue to stay strong with what they have, you have to look at that as a positive for Miami in terms of attracting other big-time players. So, yeah, buddy, there we go. Yes, that's the big thing, in terms of hitting the like button, why it helps so much, and subscribing to the channel. And speaking of subscribing, we are getting so close to 10,000. I'm really excited about that milestone. That would be huge. And because many of you we've had so many people jump on since March, since the quarantine, since spring ball ended. And I find that to be just really rewarding in terms of all the videos that I tried to put out there for you guys. I think you guys saw it with 100 straight days of a video uploaded to YouTube, to the channel, and so many new subscribers during that time. If you're out there, definitely thank you for that, because showing your support during a time when it's not easy definitely means a lot to me personally. And that's why I want to keep this thing going. And these 2 donations have been super helpful. And yeah, hitting the like button and subscribing definitely helps spread the word for the channel. The way it works, yeah, you mentioned the algorithm. It's really complicated, but basically it's a good thing to drop in on the like. And it also shows what kind of fans Miami has. Let's go ahead and hit the like button on these Zoom calls, all these interviews, or these highlights, or anything going on like that. Or if you like these simulations that Miami's winning some of these, hit that like button. Show that you like seeing Miami out in front. And anything we could do on the Hurricanes, whether it's baseball, basketball, recruiting, anything going on, it's definitely helpful. So, buddy, thanks for you recommending that to people. That I just want to kind of touch base on why it's so important, and also how much it means to me as well. So let me think. I think we kind of got through a lot of stuff. I think, again, just Blake Baker talked tonight, Rhett Lashley. Talked about Rhett Lashley. If you missed on the earlier, you can always watch this back. But Rhett Lashley, just a quick recap. Definitely Derek King feels confident in his passing ability. Randy's here. Awesome. That's glad you're here. Always showing your support. That's great. You're back. And then, just other things too, just with Rhett Lashley, talked about Don Chaney Jr. Really likes what he's seen there. And also just kind of how things are progressing. And they talked a little bit about the scrimmage, a little bit, both coaches, although they didn't have specific details. And it will be a little bit interesting in terms of how many plays they play or they run But it's definitely good to see that they're finally getting that thing going after 8 practices. They get that first scrimmage in, and then, yeah, buddy, I'm glad you think so. You know what? What's funny with some of these, we don't know. Some of this time, if you see me trip up on some of the questions, it's because we don't know exactly when we're going to be called on. And luckily, I like being able to go first or whatever it might be, whatever the order is, it's great. I just want to make sure I get my one question in, and I'm always trying to ask questions that you guys want to know. Maybe I'm just trying to make sure I get some stuff in. But anyway, sometimes I might fumble a little bit because I'm trying to get these things recorded and ask questions and write stories while the interviews are going on. So definitely just a lot going on during these Zoom calls. So if you see a little bit, that's what's kind of going on the background a little bit, give you guys a little backstory. So yeah, but anyways, let's see other things going on with that. I talked about Brevin Jordan, Will Mallory. Great to talk to those guys as well. And hopefully we get some more interviews, different guys, different coaches. We've talked to a lot of different coaches as well. And shout out to anybody that's been watching the video games, the simulations, things like that. We'll see if I can get some of those squeezed in, but obviously the primary focus right now is knocking out these content items, these live streams on the current team, and providing as much information as possible. Mason's here. Glad you're here. I haven't shouted you out yet, but Mason, glad you're here. Do you think that the Miami FSU game is going to be good this year? Yeah, I think it always is. You know what? And I know Florida State struggled last year and obviously went through stuff, but Miami did too. I don't think there's any question. And even though Miami has won the last couple, you're certainly feeling better if you're a Miami fan compared to that losing streak when Florida State had really good teams. With Miami right now, you're definitely looking at, again, with the Eric King, you're hoping Miami takes a bigger jump from what they did last year and maybe stays out in front of Florida State right now. It's always important in these rivalries with Florida as well. When your opponents are struggling a little bit, when they're at a down point, you definitely want to take advantage of that. That's when you want to pile up these wins. That's when you want to stack recruiting classes, win those recruiting battles. It's so important. I think it's really been great for Miami to be able to have success in recruiting, particularly over Florida in certain situations. Didn't win them all, haven't won them all. But with Florida finishing 6th in the country last year and Miami only winning 6 games, and for Miami to do what they've been able to do in recruiting, winning some of these battles, I think is very important. I think it's great for Miami's program to certainly help lift them moving forward in the future, shorten that gap, shorten that time frame, essentially, to being right there with Florida as a top 10 school in the country. So that's great to see, again, closing that gap, because you do not want to go through those long losing streaks against your rival, because it just can pile up with the recruiting and it makes it really difficult. So that's yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And yeah, Randy, you mentioned it. That's the tough news with all of this stuff. If you guys, and I feel like that's definitely going to be the tough part for all of you. I think many of you have gone to games over the years, in particular that Miami Florida State game is always a lot of fun, regardless of where it's at, whether it's at Doak Campbell or it's at the Orange Bowl or at Hard Rock Stadium. I think it's always a lot of fun, whether it was during the day, at night, whether it was in the rain. I remember that was my first Florida State game I covered, was the rain game when Sean Taylor had that big game up in Tallahassee. That was the first one I covered. So whatever it's been, rain or shine, day or night, those rivalry games have been crazy and definitely a lot of fun. And hopefully we get back to having able to enjoy that whenever it's safe and able to do that, because I know many of you, your favorite games, your favorite experiences as a fan are going to a Miami Florida State game. I don't think there's any question about that, because of just that energy, that excitement is definitely a lot of fun. And yeah, if you guys have made that trip, maybe you haven't done too many college football trips over the years, but maybe you've made it to Tallahassee and got yourself a gut box. So that's definitely a lot of fun. So, yep, buddy, you got it correct. UAB is in Conference USA. And, yeah, they actually released a statement that they're moving forward, much like the ACC. Certainly anything can change. They did announce that Old Dominion, they're a Conference USA team. They're not playing this year. They announced that individually. And then FIU pushed back their season a little bit. So there is a little bit of changes, but, yeah, they've announced that they're still playing as of now. And and shout out to UAB fans if anybody pops in here, because I know many of the UAB fans saw that video I put together, a simulation. I was able to create a UAB team and get that up there with that mod. I think you guys saw that. So Anthony, there we go. Let's see, any updates? High school football this season? Yeah, no, it's not canceled completely. They did a recent one. Yeah, I'll get to that too. Rooster. Yep, I'll get to Jalen. But yeah, as far as the Florida high schools, they've announced that August 24th is a start date, and if they want to, the schools in South Florida, it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to start at that time. It's very confusing as far as an update goes, but it's just going to be very fluid in terms of there might be schools around the state that actually play games and some do not, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. It's definitely something to follow for sure. It's something I always enjoy going to each year. It's definitely going to be a little bit different of a year. If I'm not able to go, I always enjoy going to games and checking the schedule, and seeing Miami commits in action is always a lot of fun. And also the young guys looking to make a name for themselves. Man, there's just so much that goes into it, but it's not there's a lot that goes into it for sure. And then, yeah, I didn't see the question about Rooster, but yeah, Deerfield Beach's Jalen Knighton. I assume that's who you want to talk about. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Just that I think he's got a real place in this offense because he can do different things, move around a little bit. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He can run the ball. I think he's a guy you could use in pitches situations. I think you could find ways to, tosses, or just kind of get him the ball. Maybe you move around. There's ways to be a creative with him, even though, a guy like Cam Harris, who's expected to take the load. I think a guy like Jalen, while he might not get a ton of touches, particularly early in the season, I think he's a guy that has ability. I think he'll get a chance to show that. And I think he's a guy that's great for the offense in terms of moving forward. He's going to be a great piece because not everybody has those attributes. I mentioned Don Chaney Jr. earlier in this episode, in this stream, and he has different attributes than Jalen. They're just different backs, and I think moving forward, you're always going to be able to, if you're Jalen, you're always going to have that those attributes used to your advantage with this offense because of some of the things you're able to do that not every other running back can do in terms of being able to do back and forth. So Mason, yeah, never been. Yeah, it's great, man. I'm sure you'll get to one sooner or later. It's probably on your bucket list. It's not the easiest thing to get to go to, maybe to score a ticket, those kind of things. But yeah, anybody on here that has been, I'm sure they can always check them out. They'll definitely tell you how exciting it is. And those games are a lot of fun, particularly before the game. You want to make sure you get there early, enjoy everything, enjoy the people, everybody supporting their team, the team colors, everything. It's just great. And like I said, they've had games during the day. They used to have that noon kickoff years ago with that rivalry. That was a lot of fun. And switching that to a night game in the Orange Bowl, that was a lot of fun as well. And even now in the Hard Rock Stadium, it's just great. It's great for college football. It's great that Miami has a rivalry like that where they play every year. So there we go. I think we're winding down here, guys. We're getting a lot of questions. I want to make sure I try to get to everything. Anthony, yep, with Marquise Brown, some more recruiting stuff. They're going to have to do something at cornerback just because you're looking at with Blades and DJ Ivy being juniors, they're definitely trying to replenish that position. They got the safeties. They're starting to get safeties in the program, but you definitely want to get those cornerbacks. They're so important, and they've got to figure out what they've got in the future. You're trying to build at that cornerback spot that's so important for a defense. So whether it's Marquise or Nyland, it'll be remains to be seen. But yeah, there we go, buddy. I'm glad you jumped on. I'm glad you provided that. And I appreciate your support once again. Donnie, I appreciate your support if you're still here. I'm going to wrap this up. I know you guys are still here, and I apologize, but we've gone an hour strong. Definitely, if you have any more comments that I didn't get to, if you have any more questions, maybe either to ask coaches coming up in the next week, or maybe you're just curious about how certain guys are doing that I haven't been able to address. There's a lot of guys on the team, and it doesn't matter if they're a starter, backup, third string, fourth, whatever it might be. Go ahead and drop that on the comments to this video, or you can always stop by on the message boards at InsideTheU. And if you guys are interested in continuing to support Inside the U, we got 50% off a VIP subscription right now for the year. You can make sure you don't miss out on anything, any scoops, any recruiting news, things like that. So definitely appreciate everybody. This is awesome. Tons of viewers in here. Once again, you could watch this back if you want to watch it back. If you missed part of it, you can always scroll up. And once again, I appreciate you, buddy. That's awesome. Yep, catch you next show. Definitely doing this again. I definitely enjoy doing this because I know you guys love the Hurricanes, and I try to present as much information as possible that I have, and will continue to do so. Hopefully collect more information, hopefully find out more about the scrimmage on Sunday night. So definitely thanks for everybody for jumping on. You guys are what makes this a lot of fun. There's no question about it. So thank you again. Thanks for all the support for not just now tonight, but for the last few months, for the last several years. I've always appreciated your support. So thank you. Appreciate it. And you guys have a good night.